Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Miriam Korowa. There are signs a rescue operation to free 12 boys and their soccer coach trapped in a cave in Thailand is either imminent or underway. Ambulances have arrived at the scene and the media has been pushed back from the area. ABC journalist Anne Barker joins us now live. And Anne, is it fair to say that these signs of activity are an indication that the rescue effort there is ramping up?
Absolutely, Miriam. They haven't confirmed to us that the rescue has begun, and it may be that we don't actually hear that it has started or even is progressing until it's finished, until there's news to tell us, because remember it will take several hours for these boys to come from the cavity 4 kilometres inside the cave back to the entrance. But since very early light this morning, this place has been absolutely frantic with activity. There's been a string of ambulances going in. We could see when we first arrived, the mountain above the cave was shrouded in mist. There has been very heavy rainfall overnight, and that possibly is what has perhaps brought forward this rescue if they are indeed if it is indeed underway. The media are now being evacuated from the area in front of the cave site, about 500 metres up the road from here. We had until about 9 o'clock local time, which is now in fact to get our gear and move down the hill. Clearly that's to make sure that the road is cleared. There are so many media, so many cameras there that it has been blocking a lot of routes. There is only one road into this area. So if and when they bring the first boys out of the cave, if anything has gone wrong, obviously ambulances will be on standby. I did see reports that there were as many as 10, and hopefully, of course, they won't be needed because we have been told the boys are in reasonable health. But clearly it's a precaution in case something goes wrong on that journey through the flooded channels.
And timing, of course, will be critical. You mentioned there ongoing rainfall in the region there overnight. Monitoring of oxygen levels, is there any sense of where that's at?
We've heard nothing at all about that today, but certainly yesterday we were told that was a major fear. The fact that oxygen levels in the last few days, not just in the cavity where the boys have been held or have been trapped, but also in the outer chambers where rescue workers have been storing their gear, putting air tanks and so on, and supplies and food and medicine. The oxygen had dropped at least to 15% where it should be 21%, and we were told that if it dropped to even 13%, that could become quite dangerous. At the same time, carbon dioxide levels were going up, and that too, if it was to get into the bloodstream, then that can be quite fatal.
And of course the danger of the rescue efforts there underscored by that previous death, but also a separate accident that has happened there on the mountain.
There was an accident last night. Late last night we heard that a car with 4 volunteer rescue workers who are on the mountain above the cave had somehow driven over a cliff or a ravine, and one of them was seriously injured. The 3 others, I gather, had only light or no injuries. Fortunately, no one was killed, but it does show just the difficulty of the terrain here, not just the cave itself, but there are dangers even above. And there have been hundreds of rescue workers swarming over the hillside in the last few days, desperately trying to find any kind of way down or a place where they could drill a shaft into the cave that might allow them to extract the boys and the coach through a hole up to the surface, rather than forcing them to go through the flooded channels inside, where of course they've been learning in the last few days to use scuba tanks and scuba masks. They've been learning how to breathe through those masks underwater. Just yesterday we were told they weren't ready, they weren't clearly confident enough to try a rescue already, and so they were taking advantage of the relatively dry weather and putting the rescue off in the hope that they could just give the boys more time to familiarise themselves with scuba diving gear and build the confidence they will need to embark on that 4 kilometre underground journey led by some of the world's best cave divers.
Have authorities there been able to give any indication of how long a rescue operation might in fact take, given the complexity of the conditions there and the number of people who they need to rescue from that cave?
We've had no more detail in the last day or so of just how many hours it might take, but certainly we have been told it's a 12-hour round trip, even for an experienced diver. 5 or 6 hours in, 5 or 6 hours back, with several points along the way where there's enough air pockets and staging posts where they can refuel their tanks. Originally the plan was perhaps to bring one of the strongest or oldest boys out first and then see how that went before they took the others. But with heavy rains falling overnight and forecasts for later today, the weather is definitely deteriorating. It's quite possible that they will decide they need to bring them out as one group but stagger them over time. So that would take, you would presume, at least 6 hours from beginning to end. But because these are boys as young as 11 who have only learnt scuba diving in the last week or so, then I imagine it could take much longer than that.
Keeping us up to date there with all the details, our reporter Anne Barker at Chiang Rai in Thailand. Well, let's now explore the challenges that the rescuers there in Thailand are facing to bring that soccer team out. Ben Zveen reports.
At the mercy of the monsoon, 13 young lives hang in the balance. As heavy clouds loom on the horizon, the rescue team is weighing up tough decisions.
If it rains and the water volume increases, we have to calculate how much time do we have, how many hours, how many days.
Pumping the water out from inside the flooded cave was once the preferred option. Some even suggested keeping the group in the chamber for months until the rainy season subsides. But that's a gamble Thai authorities no longer want to take.
We can't risk having the area flood again. That's the problem. Since we can't risk having the cave flooded again, we have to revise our plan.
A single downpour could flood the muddy chamber in which the boys are trapped or block an air shaft keeping the group alive.
We can't control the weather. It's impossible to know when it will rain.
More than 20 teams have been scouring the jungle, hoping to locate a shaft from above. But ultimately, they needed more time. In the face of that uncertainty, there was only one option left. The group will dive out through passages so narrow and treacherous, a grown adult could barely fit through.
If you don't know how to swim and you're in a very black environment, which can potentially kill you inside a cave, it's not a good environment to learn in.
They will be underwater for up to 15 minutes at a time, guided by expert divers through fast-flowing streams.
It'd be terrifying, but the children who are aware of the cave, they know the caves, they've been in the cave very often.
Nevertheless, this 4-kilometre journey through darkness would be daunting for even an experienced swimmer.
We spend 6 hours going in and another 5 hours coming out.
One former Navy SEAL has already died after running out of oxygen while attempting a return journey to deliver supplies. The boys have had just days to train and some a week after almost 2 weeks deprived of proper food and sleep. And there are concerns too for their coach, who has sacrificed his own meagre rations to help the boys.
Oh, absolutely, it could be fatal. You know, when you're several hundred metres from an airspace that you can come up into, and anything goes wrong, if you got tangled with the diving guideline, for example, or if your face mask got knocked aside and air rushed out and water rushed in, all of those are possibilities which would have to be overcome.
As anxious relatives pray for a miracle, there is a dawning realisation. This dangerous mission could be the last best hope to recover the boys and their coach alive.
To other news now, and New South Wales police say they are ready to fly to Brazil, where police in Rio de Janeiro have arrested Brazilian man Mario Marcelo Santoro in connection with the suspected killing of Sydney woman Cecilia Haddad earlier this year. Reporter Ashley Raper is following the story and joins us now in studio. Ashley, thank you for coming in and bringing us up to date. So just talk us through the developments around the arrest of Mario Marcelo Santoro.
Yes, he was arrested in his hometown of Rio de Janeiro today. It's Saturday their time. It's now 11 o'clock there at night. He's currently in the police station in Rio de Janeiro and he has not come back out. Now, Brazilian police put out an arrest warrant for a warrant for his arrest yesterday, and he was found hiding with a relative in Rio de Janeiro. Now, he has been hiding out in Rio since Cecilia Haddad, his ex-girlfriend and former business partner, was murdered. Now, she was found, her body was found in the Lane Cove River at the end of April. So this has been quite a long process to get to this point. Now, at the time, police weren't sure whether she was murdered. They quickly worked out that she was murdered, that she had been murdered, they think, the day before in her Ryde apartment, so on April 28. And then they continued with their investigations, and last month they put out a warrant for Mario Santoro's arrest. He became the prime suspect, and now there's been lots of negotiations happening with Canberra and Brazil to try and get him extradited or get his arrest happening. So this is the next step that Brazilian authorities have now, they put out their own arrest warrant and have arrested him, the local police there.
So we understand that, of course, police will be flying from Australia to Brazil. Is it clear at this stage whether an extradition may, in fact, be undertaken to bring Mario Marcelo Santoro back to Australia?
It's a complicated process because we do have a treaty with Brazil, Australia does, but there's a constitutional block on them extraditing Brazilian nationals. So Mario Santoro is a Brazilian national, and they tend to not like extraditing them to face a justice system in another country. So they may decide, because Cecilia Haddad is a Brazilian national herself, so the court system there may decide to extradite him to Australia. That is unlikely, and if they do that, then Mario Santoro, you would expect, then would go through legal processes there to try and block that from happening. The second option would be that he voluntarily returns to Australia, so he could waive his rights as a British citizen and come here if he is professing, as he has, that he is perhaps innocent of this crime, and he might come to face the justice system. The third option, which is the most likely option at this stage, is that he could be tried in Brazil. So because we do have an arrangement with Brazil, as you said, New South Wales Police are poised to fly over there, and we have an agreement that we would share the information here. New South Wales Police would provide the evidence, because obviously this crime did happen in Sydney, so all the evidence relating to any prosecution that would happen in Brazil is in Australia. So our police would fly over there and help with that if the prosecutor wants to pursue the case in Brazil, and that is what we think is likely at this stage. But as I said, it's 11 o'clock there at night. No charges have been laid yet. He's been arrested, so it's very much a wait and see, and everybody is poised here in New South Wales. Even the New South Wales Police haven't flown to Brazil yet. They're just waiting to see what is happening with this international legal wrangling that's going on.
Well, it certainly has added an extra dimension there, hasn't it? Our reporter, Ashley Raper, thank you. Now, the United States and North Korea have not seen eye to eye at the latest round of denuclearisation talks. Pyongyang has labelled the attitude of the US as regrettable and extremely troubling. The comments were made on the country's news agency and came just hours after a two-day visit by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who was in North Korea for discussions over the country's nuclear program. Pyongyang claims America is demanding too much and was going against the spirit of last month's historic Singapore summit. It says the US is applying unilateral pressure on North Korea to force the rogue nation to abandon its nuclear weapons. The statement was in stark contrast to Secretary Pompeo's comments. He told reporters that the talks went well.
Many hours of productive conversations. These are complicated issues, but we made progress on almost all of the central issues. Some places a great deal of progress, other places there's still more work to be done. So a very productive conversation about the process by which we will deliver on the commitments that were made in the Singapore summit. The North Koreans also confirmed the missile engine testing facility. We talked about what the modalities would look like for that destruction of that facility as well, and so some progress there as well.
At least 51 people have died and many more are missing after heavy rain caused flooding across much of western Japan. The Hiroshima area has been the hardest hit, severe landslides destroying hundreds of homes, while floodwaters have swept away cars. 5 million people have been told to evacuate, but authorities say many of the dead had ignored calls to leave their homes while it was still safe. Helicopter footage shows people stranded on their rooftops, while soldiers have been rescuing children by boat from a flooded river. The country's weather agency has forecast record rain will continue through today, with further flooding, mudslides and lightning strikes expected. In Europe, a debate is once again raging about how to handle migration. At the heart of it is whether the member states of the European Union want to keep their borders open. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has championed European openness for more than a decade. Now she's under increasing political fire from within her own coalition to clamp down on migration to her country. Since the peak of the refugee crisis in 2015, migration figures into Germany have actually dropped, but there are growing fears among traditional Bavarians that their culture and identity is under threat. Europe correspondent Lisa Miller has filed this report from the German-Austria border.
This is one of the hot spots of the migration debate in Europe at the moment. Have a look at this. We are exactly on the border of Austria and Germany, Deutschland. Cars are coming across here and they're being randomly stopped by the police officers. This is the kind of border control that a lot of people want to see more of. 3 years ago, 160,000 refugees were streaming across this bridge into a tiny town of about 15,000, a couple of kilometres down the road. It put enormous pressure on that town, and while they were welcoming at the time, 3 years on, they're really wondering what it was all about. And they're concerned that these open borders still exist because you can, normally, travel in between without anyone stopping you. The politics of Germany is so complicated and fraught at the moment that even though the numbers of refugees coming in is so much less than it was 3 years ago, the politics is tougher for Angela Merkel. She's still fighting for her career. A lot of people here want to see her gone because they don't think that she has been tough enough. There are a lot of deals and agreements going on. There was talk of setting up transit centres to send migrants back as soon as they were arriving. It's still quite unclear where it's all going to end up. But there are elections happening in Bavaria, in Germany, in October, and that's why the debate is so intense and will be until then.
It was once in the realm of science fiction, but these days virtual reality is changing the way we learn, do business and play games. Now this technology is being used to help people with intellectual disabilities, allowing them to learn life skills in a safe environment before facing those experiences in the real world.
More than just a game, this virtual reality technology is changing lives.
I love it. It's an amazing opportunity for people with disabilities.
Fitted with goggles, headphones and controllers, they navigate through simulated situations they find difficult to face in the real world.
People who are anxious about going into the community, so it makes it difficult for them to interact, to go to a coffee shop or an ATM or catch public transport. This is going to open up opportunities for those people to be able to do that in a comfortable environment.
For people with an intellectual disability, it's a game changer.
It's going to give people access that they've never had before to try things and to do things that perhaps themselves and their families never thought that they'd be able to do.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really cool. I'm going to get it from Mum.
It's weird, but you need that sort of stuff, you know, just to find out what the world is really like out there.
As well as learning practical life skills, there are also programs to help improve employment opportunities, including a virtual barista course.
The individual learns to exchange money, they open doors, they make the coffee themselves. So not only are they getting the skills of making coffee, but they're also getting that interaction with customers and people, you know, accessing the community.
The virtual reality tool will help more than 100 people here in Bundaberg. It will be rolled out at 36 Endeavour Foundation centres across Queensland, and it's hoped the National Disability Insurance Scheme will make it accessible to more Australians.
It's everyone's right to have that opportunity to be independent and have opportunities for employment, to be able to learn, and that all is going to come through the programs that are actually here through that VR.
A virtual tool changing real lives. Jess Lodge, ABC News, Bundaberg.
Seahorses were once abundant along the coast of the New South Wales Hunter region, but a loss of habitat in recent years has decimated the population. Now scientists have come up with a novel approach to saving the tiny creatures, which involves treating them to a little hospitality.
Port Stephens used to have one of the largest concentrations of seahorses in the world.
Oh, this was the location. So if you wanted to see seahorses, you'd come to Port Stephens, you could hop in here and you'd see, 30, 40 seahorses on every single dive.
But 4 years ago, large storms shifted huge amounts of sand into the port.
And smothered all the sponges and the soft coral habitats where the seahorses lived. And because of that, the seahorse population declined.
Boat anchors wreaked more havoc, leaving nothing but barren sand. White seahorse numbers plunged by 90%.
One site where I used to get 400 animals, I saw 10 there. So the decline was quite dramatic. And because of that decline, the species became the second endangered seahorse listed in the world.
But there's now hope in the form of seahorse hotels. They're little more than chicken wire cages, but they're 5-star for the slowest fish in the ocean.
Seahorses rely on habitat for two things. The first thing is most important is that they need camouflage, so they have to hide. And if they can't hide, they'll get eaten by predators. But the second thing is that the habitats provide lots of food for them.
Each hotel is sheltering up to 20 seahorses after just 6 months in the water.
It was a bit of a surprise how quickly seahorses appeared on there.
There are a few different hotel designs, and the guests appear to like them all.
It's a good thing in the sense that you may not need additional complexity in a seahorse hotel to promote seahorse numbers. It may be as simple as putting a cage out.
If you build it, they will come. So we've built the infrastructure for the seahorses, the hotels are there, and now the seahorses are colonising them.
The seahorse hotels were inspired by these old crab traps because the scientists found when they were discarded underwater that they attracted seahorses because they provided the perfect habitat. The goal now is to develop an easy-to-build hotel design, giving threatened seahorses around the world hope to hang on to. Ben Millington, ABC News, Port Stephens.
Time now to get all the day's sports news with Frankie and Co.
England's World Cup dream remains alive, beating Sweden 2-0 to reach the semi-finals for the first time since 1990, where they'll face Croatia. Set pieces again proved valuable for England after they opened the scoring from a corner after half an hour.
Bus-stop manoeuvre, and it works again, and it's Harry Maguire this time.
The Three Lions doubled their lead after half-time through Dele Alli. At the other end, goalkeeper Jordan Pickford produced some great saves for his first clean sheet of the tournament. It meant England was able to celebrate another famous victory.
We know there's still a big game ahead, obviously the semi-final, but we're feeling good, we're feeling confident. Today was great, we looked composed, we looked like we controlled the game, so yeah, we just have to go again. We're enjoying it, I know the fans here are enjoying it, fans back home, I'm sure we'll see some videos tonight of them enjoying it, so we just got to keep doing what we're doing and yeah, make the country proud.
England will take on Croatia, who were forced to come from behind after hosts Russia scored a great opener in their quarter-final. Croatia equalised before half-time, and the match was still level at the end of 90 minutes. The Croatians looked on course to win when they scored in extra time, only for Russia's Mario Fernandes to head in an equaliser with 6 minutes left. But Fernandes was one of two players who faltered twice from the spot for the hosts, as Croatia won a second straight penalty shootout.
Rakitic! And Russia dissolved into tears as Croatia's cream rises closer to the top.
It will be Croatia's first appearance in the semi-finals in 20 years. It's been a horrid day for Australia's Wimbledon hopes, with all 5 remaining singles players bowing out in the third round. 15th seed Nick Kyrgios was the final Australian to go out, saying he panicked in this morning's loss to Japan's Kei Nishikori. Kyrgios double faulted to have a second service game broken during the first set.
He doesn't wait for the ball boy to get off the court before he serves. Yeah, he's giving up this set. He's given up the set. That doesn't mean he's going to give up the match, but he's giving up this set. He's decided that's enough.
Kyrgios lost that opening set 6-1, but sent the second to a tiebreaker. The Australian lost his cool though and was handed a code violation. He then went on to lose the match in straight sets, 6-1, 7-6, 6-4. Alex de Minaur was also beaten in 3 sets by two-time winner Rafael Nadal, who ensured he'll keep the world #1 ranking after the tournament. Matthew Ebden lost in 4 to France's Gilles Simon. There were also straight set defeats for Ash Barty, who lost to 14th seed Daria Kazakina, as well as Daria Gavrilova. Women's top seed Simona Halep suffered a shock third round loss to world number 48 Shea Suway.
Chris Froome,
Four-time champion Chris Froome has crashed late in the opening stage of this year's Tour de France. The British rider was quickly back racing and says he felt fine. The opening stage was won by Colombia's Fernando Gaviria on his Tour debut. Australia's Richie Porte was caught up in an earlier crash and, like Froome, is 61 seconds behind the leader. A 6-goal haul from Luke Roost has guided the Hawks to a 63-point win over the Western Bulldogs at Docklands and a spot in the AFL's top 8. Playing its first game since the retirement of Cyril Rioli, Hawthorn kicked 7 goals to none in the third quarter to take control of the game. The win was soured by a suspected fractured cheekbone to ruckman Ben McAvoy. Melbourne thrashed Fremantle by 54 points in Darwin despite inaccurate goal kicking. The result lifts the Demons to 6th. Earlier, Port Adelaide beat St Kilda by 36 points.
Taking a look at the satellite image, a cold front and trough over parts of southern New South Wales and Victoria are generating showers and the odd storm, as well as alpine snow and powerful winds. Meanwhile, onshore winds are bringing showers to coastal Queensland. A high-pressure system is keeping skies mostly clear elsewhere. Looking around the country, and Queensland can expect showers in the northeast and the tropics and sunshine in the south and the northwest. In New South Wales and the ACT, it will be sunny in the north of the state, mostly sunny in the southwest and windy on the south coast. Victoria will be mostly cloudy in the north with showers and wind in the south. Tasmania will see showers across most of the state except for the northeast, which should see periods of sunshine. South Australia will be mostly sunny. There will be late showers in the southeast. Sunny in the north and southwest of WA, mostly cloudy in the south. And in the Northern Territory, it will be sunny in the northwest, sunshine as well in Arnhem Land, and windy in the southwest and interior. Tomorrow in the capital city is mostly sunny in Sydney and Brisbane. Frost then sunny in Canberra, possible shower in Melbourne and Adelaide, mostly sunny in Hobart, sunny in Perth and Darwin. And that's ABC News for now. I'm Miriam Corowa. Thank you for your company.